YouTube here just so you can see. The reason I'm going to do this is so you can see comments, but really it's just going to be us looking at ourselves, which is pretty weird since there's no guest. Let me make sure I have the right audio. I do. Do I have it here? Audio. I do. Let's do this. Let's proceed.
Yeah, move
The
on.
podcast. I push buttons.
Yeah, you press buttons now.
This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag, you hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
Here we go again on our own.
Stood up once again.
We kicked Derek out and got to the. No, I was kidding. I think there's a scheduling snafu that I'm not fully understanding just yet. I'm sure I'll dig through my emails and figure out what happened. And then we told Derek to go home because it's his anniversary tonight. So he did.
Good.
And here we sit. Just me and Greg. It's been a while since it's been you and I. You and me. We do these things brought to you by Half Rack.
Oh. You should have a little Debbie.
Oh,
you look like
this
a
is
little Debbie.
What do they call these nutty?
It's Nutty Buddy.
Nutty Buddy, not Nutter Butter. There's a distinction. I keep calling them Nutter Butters. That's not what they are. It's a Nutty Buddy.
It's a Nutty Buddy bar.
Nutty Buddy bar. I've been eating these Nutty Buddy bars. I have all these little Debbie snacks in here for a little photo shoot I did for this shirt that I'm wearing. Yeah. Actually, I should put now I'm just eating them all.
Should we just partake in one right now?
Yeah.
A little before dinner snack.
They're really chocolatey. If you're looking at poop on your hands, you gotta be careful. Oh yeah.
Yes, you eat them with the rubber on them.
Mm-hmm. No, that's pretty good. Anyway, this is the Okayest Hunter podcast. We are brought to you by Half Rack. As I eat this Nutty Buddy bar,
I'm partaking in an Oktoberfest. Nothing like putting down some calories.
Yeah, you gotta kind of bulk up for the cold months coming ahead. I think the body naturally does that because I've been putting the pounds on pretty quick.
Well, you're sitting down here in a studio full of little Debbie snacks.
Yeah, I got all of them because I was like, well, I couldn't discriminate. I was like, no, I need the zebras for the picture. I need the Nutty Buddies. I need all of the. And
those are the king zebras too.
Oh, yeah,
look at them.
Large.
They're not the little baby double pack either.
Yeah. Anyway, go to half-rack.com and use code OHP for 15% off. And I did put their snack pack to use this last weekend. And I enjoyed it. Actually, it was great because I unwrapped all my snacks, dumped them in there. So when it came time to get into my snacks 10 minutes into my hunt, I was pretty quiet about it, which is nice.
Normally
it's a problem.
If you leave all that stuff in there for a given amount of time, it'll be like digging in your wife's purse. You find a stick of gum and it tastes like the purse.
Yeah, that's true.
Purse gum.
And you got to be careful about like certain temperatures. Like if you leave it in your car with food in there and it heats up, this Nutty Buddy bar could be
a puddle in there.
A puddle of chocolate. So that'll be pretty great going through the wash. You got to be careful about that. Anyway, our other partners, I was able to get in the Latitude. I did get the X-Wing platform put to use, so I was really excited to try that. It fit in my pack really well. It's about as wide as the Lone Wolf Custom Gear saddle platform, but it's like much lower form factor than. So I liked it for a number of reasons. It did give you a lot of versatility to like where to put your feet because of the X-Wing thing. And with my feet up against a tree, my heels got to be downward more so. But if I want to put my feet flat, I could. It did have a leveling screw on there, so if there's some tilt to the tree, you could handle that well. Overall, I was pretty satisfied with it.
What boots did you wear?
I used the gum leafs because I didn't know how wet it was going to be where we were going.
How did it feel?
Good. I've been doing that with my gum leafs forever. With the saddle stuff.
I think a pair of hiking boots is better.
Yeah,
there's more support, more padding, just a thicker sole.
Yeah, you got a pretty thick sole.
Yeah, you got to. You're going to eat Nutty Buddies like this.
Mm-hmm. No, so I don't know. I liked how it fit in my pack. There's just more room in there. I know Lone Wolf Custom Gear has 2 platforms. I have the larger one. I think the smaller one would be a great option, but this the X-Wing from Latitude is nice. Obviously, I run the Method 2 saddle platform, which, like, if you're gonna get into saddle hunting, I highly recommend just start there. Start with a 2-piece system. Skip the 1-piece diaper and just go to the 2-piece because you're gonna have a better experience, more adjustability, more movement, that kind of stuff, more shot, type support. Yeah, it was my first hunt back in the saddle Friday.
That's always a good feeling.
I ran the sticks too, the Latitude carbon speed sticks, and boy, I gotta say, man, that was my first hunt ever that I was able to get in quickly and quietly and most importantly for me, get down and out quickly and quietly. You know how I get down and out of these trees. It is not pretty. I always and so this is what happened. Then I went over by Jace, who had the Lone Wolf Custom Gear sticks and platform because he used that one so he could film up in a tree. And we must have spent better part of 10 minutes trying to get the J-hook through the sticks into the platform and fiddly futzing around, clanking metal. I'm like, this is exactly why. Like, this is one of the reasons. I personally just happen to struggle with that stuff. Someone like you, I don't think you do. Like,
Well,
you never had struggled with your old stuff that I'm aware of, because you were always down by my tree before I was still putzing around and you were already over to me. So, like,
my mechanics are different than yours. So I have a process of taking things down, putting things up, squaring them all away for transport. You're just on the struggle bus a little bit with it.
So this is my first time not really being on. I got to feel what it was like to not be on the struggle bus. I was like, oh man, this was efficient.
Mhm.
I loved the rope tie on. Like, I think you could do that with you don't need to have Latitude 6 to run that type of amp steel.
Yeah, I mean, you would not want to run the rope mod on the custom gear sticks. I mean, guys are doing it, I believe, with success, but you got to be careful how you run that rope across the corner because the corner will cut through it.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Well, I don't know, man. I'm also just like the people talked about the standoff distance.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a problem with it. It didn't occur to me as a problem. Like,
yeah, you're size 12 shoe, right?
Yeah,
so
and I was wearing rubber boots. Like, it seemed fine to me. Now, I think my Kamix or whatever those other bigger boots that have insulation, I think those are going to suck on anything.
Yeah, those are not easy to maneuver on. I mean, I maneuvered on the old school Lone Wolf single steps with the big heavy Kamix or my big Lacrosse Ice Kings. Anytime you got a foot like Mickey Mouse and you're trying to get up a tiny little peg,
it's not pretty.
It's never pretty.
Yeah, that's how I had always done it because I had Mickey Mouse boots. But the bite was good. They didn't budge. And Jace was like, "Man, those are awesome." Obviously, I silenced, taped them or whatever. And
yep, stealth.
Yeah, they didn't make a peep. There's no sound happening. Like, I was thoroughly impressed with my whole entire scenario. I didn't make a single sound of metal noise the way up the tree or down the tree. For the first time in my hunting career, I felt like the ninja that I've always wanted to be.
That's good.
Anyway, so there's that. Obviously, if you're interested in anything Latitude wise, we rep those guys. But we're also open other products too. Like, Greg is running some XOP stuff to some degree. Obviously, Lone Wolf Custom Gear, we're rocking that a little bit here and there. What is Derek? Derek's using tree stands still from Lone Wolf Custom Gear, right?
Custom Gear, yep.
So, like, we're a hodgepodge.
Yeah, I mean,
we're
XOP
piecing stuff together.
Old school Lone Wolf, new Lone Wolf Custom Gear stuff, Latitudes, sticks and saddles. The only reason I don't have a Latitude platform, they didn't have any.
Yeah, they're just low. They're low, and we got one for the three of us. So I'm happy to share. But then push came to shove, and
you got to hang on to that. I mean, if you're doing well with that system, you have all the parts and pieces to it. You might as well just run it.
It felt good. It felt good to fit in my pack and all that stuff. Anyway, so check those guys out. Obviously, I made good use of Spartan Forge. We did try to use the Blue Force Tracker. I think there's a little bit of a learning curve there for you and I to just figure out how that populates on a certain property.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming we did something wrong because, like, we're user error type idiots. So we'll have to chat with Bill and team over there. Just be like, hey, do we do this right? Do we do it wrong? Like, what are we missing? So then we can educate you guys that listen as to how you could use this stuff. But dropping pins, taking pictures, looking at maps on there is always a great experience by and large, especially when you just see how beautiful it is. So that's kind of nice. And then Go Wild, I got to get on there as a personal person. The brand is on there, and I post to OKS Hunter, but like Eric Clark hasn't posted much in a while. So like navigating.
Yeah, I haven't either. And I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if I got messages on there from people that just follow me on there.
They probably have questions for you, Greg, you know?
Nah, I don't know about that.
But no, I mean, I have time I hunted Friday and Saturday, so I want to go log that time because I want the points. I still want the points. Like there's things I can buy, and if I can get a discount that's steep or free, it's definitely, if nothing else, if that can't compel you to post there, then like I don't know what will, other than the fact that it's a good community of good people that are genuinely curious about helping one another and being positive and not shitty like some of the Facebook groups that exist.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I have questions for Facebook groups, but I get real nervous about posting to them because I'm I wonder what's going to ensue from this post. Like I posted
200 people
my pack and stuff,
and
I'm like,
maybe,
oh boy.
Maybe 30 of them will be nice and the rest of them will be ripping on you.
Yeah. Calder, good evening, gentlemen. Just got out of the deer woods. Didn't see anything tonight. Tony Cordero, what's up, guys? My mom is in the chat. Hi, Mom. Layman Survival, hello from Northwest Ohio. Gene Gunther, probably saying that name wrong, but good evening from Ashepin. That's local Ashepin. I hunt up in Ashepin from time to time. That's cool. Hey, guys, phone lines are open. This is a live broadcast podcast. So if you're listening after the fact in podcast land, you can tune in on Tuesday nights. I would point you to our YouTube channel primarily. And typically from about 6-ish p.m. to 7-ish, we record live. And we do take calls. So if anybody wants to call in and tell us how their hunting season is going so far, give us a ring. The number's on the screen. It's 262-757-4122. We'd love to hear from some of the folks now that we're in hunting season. Kind of hear how it's going for you, what you've been seeing. We're entering what would commonly be known as the October lull, and I think people try to myth bust that, or they believe in it, or they don't. I don't really believe in it. It's a thing that people talk about.
There's people that know way more about it than we do, and good hunters know that. Lull, what's that? You know, I think it's a shift that's going on.
It's a shift. I think that's probably.
I mean, I'm seeing it on some of the public grounds that I'm hunting. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no big bucks to be seen, at least in the pieces that I frequent. That's not to say they're not out in better pieces. There's other pieces that do better. They lay out differently. They have different habitat in them. But, you know, some of these spots that I hunt, they're really thick. And a big buck with big antlers isn't going to want to fight with that. They don't, because the trails don't open up. They're not open until mid to late October.
Still there.
Yeah, like mid to late October, all of a sudden, boom, there's a trail blaze through there. That wasn't here 2 weeks ago. There's not a whole lot of, or any human sign here. So humans aren't going in and out of that. That's deer. That's deer that are
wide X bust branches, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Go figure. I don't have any intel on anything. I'm hunting on a hope and a prayer, you know, wishing on a lot of luck. I'm happy to get into a property, whatever. I'm going to do some new properties this season and scout my way in on a hunt and hope for the best as I go in. But I won't know anything about, has it been hunted a lot? Is there a lot of pressure? I'm not going to know if there's any deer in the area or deer worthwhile. Like, I'm just going to go throw some sits at spots that might end up looking good or not. And that'll be my season. So if I get something, it's either because I'm really good or I'm really lucky. There's going to be no, I don't know. You toss a coin. I don't know what it'll be. If you get something, though, you put in a lot of time over years on certain properties.
Well,
like to understand them, understand how the deer.
Yes and no. Them. I mean, I still have to, quote unquote, go back and check my work, right? I can take it for granted that I know by.
It changes, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And human pressure changes too.
Yeah.
Human pressure changes.
Like the last year, even the ragweed was like 10 fucking feet tall.
Yeah, and this year it's not quite as tall.
Yep.
And I'm not finding the human sign that I normally find either.
Yep.
So people have learned that or they've deemed it that area sucks, and they're not hunting it anymore because it's a drag getting in there.
Oh, it's not fun.
No, it's awful getting in there. And if you're parking at the parking lot and taking the long walk and then having to pound through that stuff to get in and maybe see a deer or spook any deer that are in there, which are usually does and small bucks, it's, you've blown it up. It's not really that great.
Yeah.
All the effort wasn't worth the sweat and the tears.
It's a lot of land out that way, though, just in general.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's a lot of just general opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of acreage. There's potentially 18 to 20,000 acres within, I don't know, 20 minutes one way or the other.
You'd say your season's going fairly decent so far?
Yeah, I mean, I've had some encounters. I've only gone out 3 times. It's been good. I had opportunities. I ran out after work last night and 7 deer. I saw 7 deer, had opportunities at 3 of them. One was a nub buck, which I wasn't going to shoot. Another was a doe, and then there was another doe fawn, which I could have easily taken, but I'm not out there for that. It's, you've seen it. It's a lot of work for a very, very little bit of venison when it's all said and done.
If you consider the drag
scenario,
it's definitely...
I've got easier venison to make.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. It is a lot of work. I remember when I hunted with my cousin a couple seasons ago, it was a hot, hot, hot day, and we were quite a distance from where we parked. And he's like, man, I mean, if you want to shoot one, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but also, you're going to have to, weigh in the amount of work you want to put into something like that on a hot day like today and how long it's going to take.
And you got to move fast.
That's what it was. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. So it's all personal preference. Obviously, we preach that every freaking week on social media. We're saying,
yeah, you do you, man. If you want to go that far out and shoot a doe, and hats off to you. I've done it.
You've done it plenty of times. I've been with you.
Yeah, you were with me.
The moon was out one of them, and
Derek was with me on the last one.
Yep.
And that was harder than venison when it's all said and done. All the dragging and trying to find it and through that stuff. Most of that stuff's anywhere from 6 to 10 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't look that bad when you're, 12, 13 feet up a tree. But
yeah, it's actually pretty perplexing. The grass is as tall as you, and then you get up in the tree and that just looks like regular grass.
Yeah, and you can see things because you're up high enough. And then once you're down on its level,
it's confusing as shit. You're like, where did that arrow go? How did that deer come through here? What happened?
I'm lucky I found that arrow from the last one.
Yeah, it's wild. It's a different type of terrain back there. Joel got a doe 2 nights ago.
Cool.
Right? Wednesday, Tuesday? Yeah, he wasn't hunting Monday. It was Sunday he got a doe. I was like, oh, I looked at Holly. I was like, hey, man, do you want me to come help you?
How'd that go?
He said no, and I was like, okay, are you sure? Because I knew Holly would have conceded to let me go help my buddy, but also would have been like, God damn, because then it's like, well, you're not deer hunting, but you're always doing deer stuff. And he's like, no, I got it. I can make quick work of it and get her out of here. He's the gutting king of the world. So, but yeah, he got it right in the heart. And from what I understood, he got it from the ground.
Nice.
And put a stalk on her and was pretty excited. He called me. He's like, I got a huge doe. So not far either. I know the area well.
Cool.
And he's been putzing around that property for a while. So I'm glad he finally capitalized on getting some meat because his kids love venison. So
that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So people are putting him down. Heller got a hell of a deer.
Yes, he did.
Heller got a hell of a deer. I should text him. I wonder if he's around. He, I think he put a measurement out on his.
Yeah, it was
like
just
a rough back of the napkin kind of thing. It was like
rough
150 or something, right?
Yeah, it was just about 160. Memory serves correct, 158 and change, something like that. It's a nice deer, and he earned it. It's been a while since he shot one, so it's good to see him. And he's been putting a lot of time in on his family property.
Yep.
And passing on small bucks and just waiting for that one, and he got the opportunity to finally make it happen. It's great.
Yeah. That's pretty. I don't know, man. That was a big looking deer. I mean, it's cool to have a frame of reference. The one on the wall here, being the 130, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, 130.
150s. That's huge. To
Well,
me,
I mean, you
know?
got the spread for it. You just don't have the beam length, and you don't have the tine length there.
Yeah. So I can't imagine. I personally have a hard time imagining much bigger. That's probably the biggest. I mean, it might be the biggest deer I've seen on hoof. That's not true. The one a couple years ago was probably bigger, but yeah, this one I got to touch. So
yeah,
it's always a different feeling. You get to put your hands around it. I don't know what else is going on, Greg.
Not a whole lot, really. I mean, life in general, work, that sort of stuff. Nothing too exciting. Just
cold fronts are here.
Yeah, I mean, the cold front's here. It showed up, and cameras are going off with a lot of deer movement, bucks, and I got one nice buck daylighted early in the morning. It's 7:30 in the morning. I got a handful of small bucks that are showing up pretty regularly at night, early in the morning while it's dark. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't have a whole lot of. I don't hold a whole lot of stock in pictures other than, we have deer here. Where are they? Well, they could be a mile and a half another direction. They just decided to take a mosey and ended up there, especially the ones at night. I mean, those deer are probably farther away than you think, or they could just be walking around the camera the entire time. So I don't hold a whole lot of stock to it other than, they're around. They're in the area.
You're going to see the screen. There's a small leg, but there it is.
What happened to the dude that called in while tracking a deer last week?
That was Noah. He did not recover it. It was a clean miss.
Okay.
Clean miss. So.
Is that Thompson?
No, that was Noah, taller guy. He's at Foam Fest. He also came out to the Dells. I don't think you were there for the Dells, but
no.
Yeah, he just commented. That was me. It was a clean miss. Dang, man. Good luck tonight. So he's in the stand again listening. Found something worse than squirrels to hear turkeys. That's crazy. I'm just putting all the comments on the screen for anyone listening in podcast land. But Derek, go be with your wife. Stop commenting on our podcast. Gene Gunther, you said it's pretty close. I've lived in Asheville my whole life. Nice. Yeah, I've hunted down. I don't know what that river. I think it's the Asherpin River that goes into Asherpin Lake. I've taken canoe down that through the mill pond there, and I've definitely seen some really, really nice bucks out that way. Have yet to figure out how to hunt them over there, and I know it's a fairly crowded piece, but
especially during the rut,
people can get it done out there. That's for sure. Just got to figure out.
Yeah, there's been some big deer killed around that piece of land.
Yeah. Another comment here. Gene, my son missed a doe Saturday night on his first youth hunt at 8 years old. Great dad moment. He's the one that pushed me to go hunting. Well, that's awesome. Speaking of youth hunt, I brought my kids out on Saturday for a youth hunt. Two of the three, because the third, I was like, there's no way Jude's coming.
You brought him out to sit in the woods with you while you were
not really hunting.
Yeah, but it was just a field trip to the woods with camo and orange on.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna like make them sit through a full-on hunt, but Dane, my middle guy, so Logan, my daughter, silent as a mouse, didn't make a peep. She's a rule follower, so we give her rules, she follows them usually. And in this case, she wanted to impress, so she didn't talk. She whispered the whole time, didn't talk when she wasn't supposed to talk. Was great about it. Dane, a little bit more going on upstairs, and really so damn excited, wasn't really hearing any of the rules at all. So Logan had to keep reminding him. But then I gave them grunt tubes, and they called, and gave them a squirrel call and let them each run around with it for a little while. So that was kind of fun. And then they actually got into some like pretty thick stuff. And Jace and I were like, couldn't keep up with them because we couldn't duck and dodge the branches nearly as fast as they could. They were tiny. So they're just ducking and weaving through things like no big
rabbits.
Deal. That's what it was like. And I was like, wow, actually pretty cool to take these guys scouting because they could get into these areas. So that's kind of neat. And then at the end, Dane, I was like, all right, buddy, we got to go get lunch. Like, we've been out here a while. Like, I don't want you to get too cold. Let's get some food. He got the biggest sad lip ever. It's like the the pelt lip.
Pouty lip.
And he goes, but I wanted to kill a deer. I was like, well, Dane, there's no guarantees here. Like, we go hunting and sometimes we don't see anything. And he was like, no, but I want to kill one. So he was having a hard time understanding that, like,
Yeah.
we're not going to kill one today, pal. He was pretty disappointed. So that's a great lesson in hunting.
Certainly.
Here we go. This is a caller that just popped in. Anthony, you're live.
All right, cool.
I don't mean to
I'm in
hijack
Houston, Texas.
Where are you? Are you in Texas?
Yeah, I'm in Texas at a work conference.
Shot a
I
deer.
literally just walked into my room.
Shot a deer, and then you head to Texas. Do you mind? Do you want to use this small, quick opportunity to like tease some story tidbits, or like do you want to hold out for your own podcast? Like,
you
I don't know
guys,
what you want to do.
you guys are far more important to me than my actual like 9 to 5 that pays all my bills.
But I'm just saying, are you comfortable sharing your story here? I don't know if you've shared it elsewhere.
Oh,
first.
100%. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, let's talk.
Let's do it. So your property that we do the 3D playground at, I'm assuming that's where you got this thing. Is that accurate?
It is. Yep.
Nice.
So break it down, buddy, because you've been at this shit for a while. And like you've been so helpful to the hunting community. You put out such good educational content. That's how you and I met, like 2017. I think you and I started talking. So
yeah,
it's been a minute.
Yeah, I remember doing the podcast originally on your bar at your old place.
Yep. So
in your basement. Yeah. Yeah. So the hunt. So for everybody who was at the archery shoot, so the third target, which was the elk. So the first shot was the bedded buck, like over the cliff. The second shot was the javelina. And then the third shot, you kind of like made a U-turn on the 4-wheel trail and then walked down the 4-wheel trail. And there was an elk kind of like 20 yards in the woods. Do you guys remember that?
Yep.
I'm picturing him. I'm walking through to my mind. 'Cause we took a left this year at the cornfield and looped around to start at the cliff. So I think I have a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So right where you were standing, where you shot at the elk, that buck was standing right there on that 4-wheel trail when I shot him.
That's wild.
So that's where, yeah.
But how did you know like that's the place to be? Like how did you
the whole story of it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I've been hunting my family farm for 6 years. And I've had a lot of close encounters, a couple missed opportunities where, first year I was there was a giant, gnarly, non-typical, that I didn't pull the trigger on because he was kind of not a perfect shot. He was like 30, 32 yards and it wasn't comfortable. And big thing was I wasn't comfortable with my bow at that point. Like my broadheads weren't flying the best. And so I let him walk. And I think year 3, I had a shot at another really nice buck. And I just shot over his back. And then this year, I've been running trail cameras on the property every single year. And I just, for whatever reason, it's one of those spots that hunting public land for a long time, I overlooked like a lot of the spots that are close to the cabin. Like I continually thought, it's close to the cabin. These big bucks won't be here. I got to go deep. I got to go far. I got to, penetrate into my property to these, tight bedding areas and things like that. And so this year I took a little bit different approach and I was like, look, the last 5 years in the early season, for whatever reason, the bigger bucks on the property seem to like this 4-wheel trail. And that's the one that it's on the east side of the property. And like I said, it's where you shot at the elk. Mm-hmm. And then you keep walking down the hill and eventually you shot at like the turkey that was kind of in the woods. And you shot at the carp that was in the creek.
Yep.
I went out. It was the cold front last weekend, right? It hit on Thursday. And so temps dropped on Friday. I was really excited to get out on Saturday and I had to watch the kids in the morning. So I left my house at like 2:00, got down to the property at 3:30, 3:45. And I just said, we got a northwest wind, cold front. I'm going to try to hunt this, what we call the back road, which is this 4-wheel trail that comes up out of the bottom. It just, like I said, over the years, 5 years of trail cam data have shown that bucks just for whatever reason like to use this trail. And also this year I did at the top of the trail, and this was right after the archery shoot, I did put in a water hole at the top of the trail. So I wanted to try to drive a little bit more consistency up that road. So hopefully, making those bucks instead of every, 6 days coming up there, or they could use 3 or 4 different trails to get up there. Hopefully they use this one to try to get up there, and hopefully it just helps a little bit more. So I did have a picture of a good buck from a cell cam on October 3rd, and I was going to hunt October 7th. So I didn't know it was hindsight. I thought I really examined the photo, and it is the buck that I killed. But at the time I was like, okay, the bucks are starting to use this road. I'm going to go give that a hunt. And so I got in there about 4:00, and I was very suspect with my tree stand placement. I hung the stand in like early August, and I was like, this is a good spot. It'll be good. And I climbed into the stand, and I climbed right out of it. And I was like, man, I should have brought my saddle and sticks, and I'd go. What's that?
You just thought, what was I thinking when I put this thing? You sit there and you look at it and go, there's no trail there. There's branches all over here. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it was one of those scenarios where I was like, man, why did I put it on this trail? I should have put it on the other trail that's closer to where I think they would come out or something like that. And I was second guessing the whole way, but I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to stick with the game plan. Stop overthinking it. Like, they use the road, just go sit on the road. So that's what I did. And I didn't see a deer all night. Just saw a whole bunch of buck squirrels, big buck squirrels running around, and until about the last 20 minutes of light. And from this tree stand that I'm in, it's overlooking the first shooting lane I have is at 14 yards. And that's like I cleaned that out a little bit, but and then there's another shooting lane at like 16 or 17 yards. And in between the two, there's like a little brush pile. So basically the idea is when the deer come in, I first am able to see them at 25 yards. And then they come into the shooting lane at 14. If I can't draw on them, they go behind this little brushy pile, and then I can draw on them, and then I can shoot them again at 16 yards as they're going kind of up this hill on the 4-wheel trail. So, and is this story going too long? Am I taking up too much time?
No, we got all the time in the world, man. I wouldn't have texted the other way.
Okay. All right. So, because there's a lot of details, and I do have this on video, and I got to go make a little adjustments, and I think I'll be able to make this into a video and publish this to YouTube, but it's going to take me some time to get it done. But so what happens is about 20-30 minutes before dark, I hear something from down the hill, and it sounds like a deer movement. And I'm sitting there, I hadn't seen the deer all night, and I'm like, man, I picked the wrong spot. I'm getting pictures from all my buddies that are like does in the field, blah, blah, blah. And my hunting buddy who was with me, his name's Chad. He's my neighbor. He was down at another stand. He was like, yeah, I'm seeing does come through, and I'm not seeing anything. I'm like, man, I picked the wrong spot. And I keep telling myself, like, nope, this is the last like 20-30 minutes of light stand. And then like on cue, I thought I heard some deer like walking, coming from down the hill. Couldn't see it, but I knew it was close, and I knew it sounded like deer. And then I'm looking through on that trail. There's just a whole bunch of saplings that line the trail. So I'm looking through, trying to look through these saplings, and basically like that's what gives me the ability to see out like 25 to 30 yards is because of all these saplings. And then all of a sudden I catch like some deer legs through the saplings. I'm like, okay, it is a deer. Hit record on my camera, grab my bow, like, let's get ready. Cause I was planning on shooting a doe that night. And that deer starts coming, and then I see there's another deer behind it. I'm like, okay, cool. It's a doe and a fawn. I'll shoot this doe when she comes in, and I'll get some meat in the freezer. And the doe pops out, and it's actually a 4-pointer, little forky fork. And pops out and I get a good look at him at like 20 yards. I'm like, okay, it's a fork, not going to shoot him. That deer behind him is probably this 8-point that we have on camera. And it seems like the 8-point and the 4-point are hanging out together. So this fork gets to me at 14 yards and then starts walking right at me. And it gets to like 10 yards and it wants to hop up on this deer trail. And the deer, and I looked down, I didn't even notice it, but there's a deer trail that literally goes right below my stand. And my stand is it's cool how it's set up. Actually, you walk out on a big rock cliff and then you like basically hop over to this tree that's like a couple feet away. And I hung one stick on the tree and then the tree stand. So I'm like 15 feet off the ground, maybe not that much, maybe like 12 feet off the ground, but I'm only one stick up. And I look down and that trail goes right underneath me. So this little fork takes like a step onto the trail and then looks up and he eyeballs me. And I'm like, oh man, this kind of sucks. And so then he gives me the old bob and weave, right? His head's just going all over the place, trying to figure out what I am. He backs off and goes back onto the 4-wheel trail. And he kind of keeps looking at me. And then he decides I'm not a threat. So he starts walking up the hill. He goes behind the brushy stuff. I'm like, all right, he's behind the brushy stuff. Like, where's this other deer? And I still couldn't see him. I kind of was looking through through those saplings and I couldn't see him. I could see legs, but I couldn't see anything else. I was like, okay, he's still there. And he gets this 4-pointer gets to my 16-yard lane and he stops. He gives me the old head bob again. And then he does that for like 30 seconds. And I'm just sitting there moving. And this is the first time I've ever sat this stand. This is the third time in the 6 years that we've hunted the property that I've ever been in this area. So he just had no clue what I was. And I had a good wind as well. I had a great wind, strong northwest wind, no problem. So he eventually just gave me the pass. And this little forky continued on up the hill and I lost sight of him at like 20 yards. And so then I look back and I see this other deer walking up the hill and he takes a few steps and I'm looking at him. And then I hear some crunching from up the hill again. I look up and here comes the forky back into my 16-yard lane and he starts giving me the old head bob again. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Get out of here. You already passed me as a threat, get out of here. And at that point he gives me the head bob and I look over and this deer behind him and taking a couple more steps. And I was like, oh my God, it is the big boy. It's the biggest buck on the property that we got. He's a mega, he's huge, like holy, like, and all of a sudden my heartbeat just started beating through my eardrum.
Well, next to the little guy, he looks even like bigger, probably. You're like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, dude, I was freaking out.
I wish I had some music to play, like some Star Wars music, like dun, 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 or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And all I saw was like this buck. For anybody who's listening to this and hasn't heard it, he ended up scoring about 100. He scored 158 inches. He's got a huge split G2, looks like a mule deer from one side. And that's all I saw. And I just saw the giant split G2 and I was like, oh my God, it's him. Right. And so like, all of a sudden I wasn't concerned about anything else. I was like, holy, like I gotta get an arrow this deer. How am I going to get an arrow in this deer? Like he was calm, cool and collected, not nervous at all or anything. And then,
so total opposite of like you at this point.
Total opposite of the fork. Like
total opposite.
He's just chilling.
You're not calm, cool and collected, but he is.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. I'm freaking out. Like the wind's blowing and I'm shaking worse than the leaves around me. It's like my eardrum. I just remember like vividly, like my ears were throbbing because my heartbeat was pounding so hard. And so this buck walks and he's behind the saplings and basically all I can see is his head. Well, I can see most of his body and his head, but they're all behind all these little saplings. And I can't like really get a shot through him. I needed him. And at this point he was at 18 yards. I needed him to take 4 more steps and he would have been in my shooting lane. So, and if you remember that road that you shot the elk on, it's got like it's got like these flat spots. Like you go down the road and then it flattens out for like 2 steps and then it goes down and then it flattens out and then it goes down and flattens out. And he's just standing on one of those flat spots.
Wow.
So, so I see him, I freaked out. I'm like, okay, yep. I got to figure out how to shoot this deer. And at this point, I'm basically screaming at the 4-pointer to get away, go away, stop trying to screw this up for me. So the 4-pointer is sitting there giving me the old head bob and gives me the pass again. So he continues back up the hill. So the big boy, No Neck, he takes 2 more steps and he's at like 16 yards. And so then I'm like, come on, keep coming, man, keep coming. And I look over and here comes the 4-pointer again down the hill. And No Neck is staring at this 4-pointer and I'm staring at the 4-pointer and looking like we have this weird triangle going on. The 4-pointer's looking at me, I'm looking at No Neck, and No Neck's looking at the 4-pointer. And the 4-pointer comes down and gives me the old head bob again. And No Neck takes a step back. And then starts looking
you
down
seeing
the
something
hill.
there, Steve? What do you got there, Steve, on the old you doing that for? I've seen that before.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like he was getting nervous now too. So then I was like, oh man, this is not good. This is not good at all. Like this is going to be bad. I got to figure out how to get an arrow in this deer like ASAP or he's out of here, you know? And then one of the worst things that could have happened was the little buck, he doesn't blow, but he bounds away and runs into the woods and he goes and stands almost exactly where the elk target was. And he just runs like into the woods there, and No Neck like looks at him and then he looks up the hill and he looks back down the hill. And so then I'm like, this is like, I have to find a gap now. He's busting, like he's going to go. I got to find a shot. So I look and I'm looking around trying to find any sort of gap that I can. And I find this little 6-inch window, like, and there's a perfect leaf that's like marking the gap that I need to shoot in.
And you weren't at full draw yet, were you? You have not drawn back your bow yet, or
No, I have not.
Because you really didn't have an opportunity.
No, I haven't drawn at all.
Okay.
The fork's been eyeballing me the whole time.
Oh my God.
I haven't been able. Yeah, so like I didn't even think I got him on video camera, but I did. I barely got him on camera because I couldn't move my camera at all because this fork is basically, you know, on me the whole time. So yeah, like I said, No Neck looks at the fork, looks uphill, then looks back downhill. I'm like, I got to find a gap, and I found this little 6-inch window. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to split one in there, and the little window, it gets me to his heart. Like that's basically heart low lungs is the only chance I have. I'm like, all right, so I got to thread the needle here. And if I do, he's dead. If I don't, like I probably got a wounded buck. Like I'm just going to miss. I don't know. I'm going to hit one of these saplings. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but he's at like 17, 18 yards at this point. I'm like, I know I can make this shot. I know I can. Like I've certainly hit my target plenty of times in this scenario. So I go to draw, found the gap. I go to draw. He snaps his head and stares daggers into my face. And I'm like, oh shit, he saw me. Like I'm done. Like he's got me. I'm toast. He's going to bust. Cause at this point he was kind of like on edge a little bit. And I just sat there and I had drawn my bow maybe like 2 inches. And I was like, oh man, I'm toast. And then the little forky takes like 3 steps and No Neck looks back at the fork.
You draw back.
And I've never drawn faster. 70 pounds never felt so light. I'll tell you that. Like ripped it back and settled my pin right in that gap. And it just, I couldn't tell you what happened, but it just like stuck. Like my pin was fixed to his heart. Like it wasn't moving. I wasn't shaking. At that point, it seemed that like I had calmed down. Like everything was just like rock solid. Looked at my pin and I did the old double take too. Cause I put my pin on him and then I pulled my head off my string to like, is that where it's supposed to be? Like, is this the gap? Is this the hole? I look back down my peep. I'm like, yep, that's it. Let it rip. And I pulled the trigger and just flew straight and true. I had a Luminoc on. I saw the arrow flight. It didn't deflect, nothing, just shot straight through. Heard a loud pop like a balloon. He donkey kicked, ran down the hill, and he ran with the fork. And so they were both running downhill. And a couple seconds after I shot him, I heard some crashing. But as you guys know, there's some creek. There's a creek down there. There's down timber. And then I heard after the crashing, I heard some running away as well from a deer. So I'm like, okay, did the big boy crash? Did they hit some logs? The forky hit some logs? Like, I don't know what happened. And I don't know. And at this point, it's like 6:40, and I shot a little bit through that brush. I don't know exactly where I hit him. I know I had a good hit on him. I know it was like in vitals, and I was very confident of that, but I don't know exactly where I hit him. So I was a little bit concerned, but at the same time, I was, my buddy, I got back to the cabin and he was like, how confident are you? I said, 9 out of 10, he's dead. I just don't know like how far he's going to run. So, we gave him 2 hours, cause I just wanted to make sure I didn't want to rush it or anything. Got back out there and he made it 70 yards and tipped over, didn't even make it to the bottom. And we just freaked out in celebration.
I saw the post of like pouring up drinks and picks to come tomorrow. Like, we're going to celebrate now. And man, I'm super freaking happy for you. You've been after this kind of thing for a long time, and that was a hell of a deer. And dude, that you played it right. That's got to feel good. Cause like, yeah, those seconds get drawn out into minutes in your mind because time is relative. And in that moment in time, like, that probably felt like forever. And you could be kicking yourself in the teeth for like, man, I should have done this, or I could have done that, or, but you had a lot of variables, kind of a lot of the stuff was in your favor, the wind. And so for that other buck was a real problem. You should just go find someone to go kill that fucker. Just to put on the pressure.
While this whole thing was occurring, so I looked back at my footage and I think I have like 8, I didn't even look like, so it was a whirlwind of events because I had to fly out to Houston like right away afterwards. So like I looked back, I've watched the footage just a little bit, and I think the whole thing took place in under 8 minutes. And I thought it was like 20 minutes.
It always feels longer.
The other thing is in that time frame, the wind died and I felt the thermals hit the back of my neck and go like down the hill. And so I was like, this forky is picking up my thermals, and eventually No Neck's going to like pick up my thermal and he's just going to bolt, And so I was really concerned about that too. And I don't know how they didn't pick me up. But yeah, it was just a whole lot of chaos and some luck.
The inner dialogue must have been so loud though. Like, you said you're basically yelling at that spike. I mean, granted, it was obviously dead silent, but I could just hear the voice in your head, like, get the fuck out of here. What the hell are you doing to me, man?
Get out of here. Go away. I don't have time for you right now. And after, the first year, that really big non-typical came through at 30 yards, and I wasn't confident in my bow setup and my broadheads. Like since that year, and I passed that deer just because of that. I've been just anal about making sure my broadhead's tuned, and I'm extremely confident in my setup. So when this opportunity presented itself, and it was the only opportunity I had, and I needed to make the shot under the pressure and everything, like practicing all summer and continuing to practice every day, or just every other day with my broadheads at, 40 yards and under was paid mega dividends in this scenario. I was extremely confident that I could make the shot, and I didn't have any sort of feeling that I was going to wound this deer. Even though it was a small window, I had every bit of confidence that I was going to make it. And thankfully, my confidence was in the right place, and I was able to make the shot. But man, I can't say enough about being confident in your setup so that when things like this happen, you're confident you can thread the needle. Because especially like hunting public land, you can't trim shooting lanes. Right. So 99% of the time, they're not doing what you want them to do, and they show up in places, you're not wanting them to show up, and they stop behind specific trees and pieces of brush, and you got to try to thread the needle. And so, like, being confident in that setup, man, I couldn't say enough about making sure you are. Yeah, and it turns out, the shot placement was perfect. I stuck him straight through the heart. So, he made it 60 yards. I didn't even touch the lungs, just iron will right through the heart.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a lot of carnage. Those things cut.
And those things
deep.
work well.
They do. I'm disappointed. I lost the arrow. Like, went through them, and I don't know where it went.
You'll find it in spring.
But yeah, I hope so. It's a $55 arrow sitting out somewhere.
I've lost many of those. The buck on one of the bucks. Well, actually, yeah, the small buck on the wall. I never found that arrow.
Nope, you
didn't. Who knows where? But I was low in the tree like you were, maybe 10, 12 feet up, if that, and shot kind of high, and it probably just kept sailing way beyond where the point of impact would have been. And canary grass.
Yeah, man, they can do such funny things. My buddy shot an elk this year, and he thought he missed because after he shot, he saw his fletching go over the elk. And what happened was, on point of impact, the elk jolted forward and his fletchings went up. He broke the arrow and his fletchings went up and over his back. So he had thought he totally missed the entire thing. And then he walked over there to look for his arrow, and he just found pools of blood.
Like,
so he was elated.
That's wild. That's cool, man. Congrats. Good for you. That's gotta be super exciting and
monkey off the shoulders after having a few tough seasons and finally deciding to throw something different at it. If something's not working, you keep doing it. It's the definition of insanity. You do it multiple times with no success or limited success. You got to do something different. So it's cool. You went outside the box and tried, you had an inkling. Let's try this just once. What can it hurt?
Yeah. Yeah. I also this is 100 acres and this is the 6th season hunting it. And it's the first season that I went around and we set up 9 tree stands. I was confident enough that these 9 would be like the spots that I wanted to hunt. Instead of even though it's a private piece, I was always running a mobile setup because I just wasn't confident in all these locations, and I was trying to pinpoint exactly what tree I needed to be in and what wind and what scenario and things like that. And I didn't want to go through all the work of setting everything up. And so this year set up 9 and sat the first one the first time and he tagged out.
Well, that's interesting too. Like first time, and first time in that area. That's been a common thesis that I've heard from others too. Like first sits are really powerful in the deer woods because you've not tipped them off at all. And if you've read the sign right, you might just get the opportunity. But I thought I was going to say to you, what was it? Yeah, picking trees is hard. That wasn't the thought, but
picking trees is very hard.
we just put a post out a week ago about the only thing worse than the spot I picked is the one the only thing worse than the spot I didn't pick is the one I did pick.
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah, I know. I swear I'll try to go hunt for 3 hours and I'll spend an hour and a half picking a tree.
No, but you've been shooting your bow a bunch. I mean, obviously, by the way, go walk your property. You'll probably find some of my arrows out there that are just as expensive, maybe less than broadhead, but you got your...
Yes, I've actually found a few that I haven't, that I don't know whose they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I think I lost one this past summer. I think I sailed one right over the target block in the front of the yard of the property there.
Yeah, you did. There's some laying just off the yard somewhere in there, and all that poison ivy.
Yeah, I brought my new bow, and I was
yeah, I'm not interested in that.
No, I can stay there.
I was like, nah, it's okay. No, but dude, thanks for calling in, man. I'm glad you were able to share the story. I was dying to know, so I would have called you anyways. But this worked out pretty well. That you just shared with a whole bunch of people.
No, yeah, thanks for having me.
It's awesome. I'm super happy for you, man. It's very exciting to hear you got something done like that. It's a fucking colossal deer, man. 150, said almost 160 inches. That's wild.
Yeah. I had a really hard time with the photos and showing the size of this deer. I think I have one photo. You know how in the olden days they would hang the deer it's not the olden days necessarily, but like deer camps, you know, you got the meat pole, you hang it, and then you take the photos next to it.
Yeah.
Standing up. Yeah, and you know how like when you get a photo of like somebody shoots a crocodile or an alligator or something like that,
Yeah.
you got a big photo like they're hanging up. That's the photo I should have taken. I kind of have one like that, but this deer, when it was hanging from the tree in the yard, I could barely jump. I'm 6'2", and I could barely jump up and touch its hooves that were hanging up, and its head was like a couple inches off the ground. So, I mean, in terms of like size, I think like in length, he was about 8.5 feet long. And I mean, in terms of weight, this deer was already puffed up, and it wasn't even the rut yet. It took 3 guys that were all over 200 pounds to pick this thing up and put them in the back of the truck. It was a huge, like I've never had a deer bigger, and dragging that thing out was
when you're in pretty good
work.
shape too. So I don't want to imagine what that'd be like. I might have passed and just take the spike because I wouldn't be able to work.
the effort, man. Yeah. And my buddies were claiming, you know, that dude, this thing's 250 pounds dressed, and we tried to get them. I called a couple people to try to get a scale.
Dude, it's hard
and
to
I never
find
did, so I don't want to.
It's hard to find a certified scale.
I had my uncle weigh this deer and my dad's
Yeah,
deer,
and
he happened to
that
be
thing
nearby,
as old as can be. That thing's older than dirt. You don't know how accurate it is. But my dad, let's see, how old was I? 8 years old. My dad shot a nice Pope and Young 8-pointer in Dodge County, and back then it was the 80s. You could go a couple different places where they sold coal. They sold coal, so they would sell it by weight. So you could go over a scale, a certified scale, and they also sold fuel oil, so they had to weigh the trucks. So there was a place over in Reeseville. It's now a filling station. There's no scale left there anymore. But I remember him shooting that buck. We took it over to that place and pulled it off and set it on the scale off the top of the station wagon, and set it on the scale, and ended up weighing like 253 pounds. And that was dressed, and it was 3 days later.
Gosh.
Yeah, dude. I've never seen a buck.
That's a heifer.
It's been a long time since I've seen a buck with a body that big.
That's ridiculous.
And I got a picture of it hanging up down in my office in the basement. But that thing is enormous.
I don't remember the weight of mine. I have to go back and watch the video, actually. But I don't know that it was a certified scale. But it came from a manufacturing plant, if that says anything. So who knows? It was old.
But it's been old. It's been sitting in a shed, and humidity and everything affecting it.
Well, Anthony, dude, thanks again, man.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now? What are you gonna do the rest of the season? You're just gonna hang out?
Thank you for letting me tell the whole thing.
You're just gonna like be a husband and a dad now, and then you're good, or like what?
Doe mission, rifle hunting.
I pre-negotiated an out-of-state hunt in November with my wife, regardless of what occurred. So I'm gonna try to hold her to it. We'll see how that goes, but I'm gonna try.
Cool.
Your wife seems pretty cool.
Are you whitetail hunting, or are you hunting something else?
Yeah, no, I'll whitetail hunt. It's just the question of if I want to go. I have a piece of public in Illinois that I've hunted before that I might revisit. But an Illinois license, $400 or $500. So
I've done it when it's all said and done. You're just shy of 500. It's like 485 and change. And and the stuff in the northern part of the state's kind of tough to hunt because everybody else hunts it. Yeah,
it's a tough spot, but I had pretty good luck. I hunted it for 3 days, and I had one really nice buck come through that I couldn't get a shot at, and then I had a camera problem on the other one. I was going to shoot a really nice 8-point, and my camera arm started swinging out of nowhere. And then buck looked up, and this camera's just like, drifting through the air off my tree. And I'm like, oh no.
Right. I'm out.
So he saw it and took off. But yeah, might go there, might go to Minnesota because the tag's cheap, or I might head out. People always say Pennsylvania, big woods is really difficult to hunt and it's tough and everything.
Yeah,
but I might sneak out there.
Yeah, where's that you that was talking about
going with Johnny Stewart? See if I could get something going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was you, right, Anthony? You talking about going with Johnny out there?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I was talking to Johnny Stewart, and he invited me out there, and I said, you know what, I might take you up on this year. He's got a couple other hunts that he's on, and then if timing and everything works out, I'll probably be headed out there to catch up with him for a week or so.
It's a good
Yeah,
job.
he'd just be a good guy to be hanging out with.
Yeah, for sure. Well, dude, thanks again, man. We'll let you off here so you can nestle into your hotel room there and I don't know, do whatever you do. Take a load off.
Right. Yeah. Try to make money.
There you go.
Right, buddy.
Try to pay for the addiction.
Have fun.
All
We'll
right.
catch
Thank
you
you
soon.
guys. I hope everybody has a great evening, and for everybody listening, I hope you guys have the same type of luck I had, and you guys put in the work and shit pays off for you.
Yeah.
Thanks, bud.
We're getting there.
All right. Yep. I'll catch you guys later.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
So, Jason, Joel and my buddy, Jason Coles just commented. He said he got, I'll throw it up on the screen here, Greg, so you can see he got 2 does so far, passed on an 8-point last week that I probably shouldn't have.
Is he back from Florida?
He's back for good from Florida now.
So he
It's
moved.
a new revelation.
Wow. I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he was down there for a little while, but
Yeah, you'll see him at deer camp
okay.
this year.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah. We've officially announced Greg's gonna be at deer camp. Kind of just forced my hand on making him go somehow, and he's agreed to it.
Hey,
so
everybody. It's a big deal. Whoop-de-doo.
I was talking to someone else that was like from the Prairie du Chien area that's like, oh, I'd love to meet up with you guys. I was like, oh, maybe we're out that way. That's cool to hear a story. I'm really glad I got to hear. I didn't know the story up until this point, so it's
awesome.
Fresh ears on that one. That's a long time to be putzing around with a big deer in front of you like that. I'd be panicking.
8 minutes feels like an hour.
My thought has always been like, am I actually going to be able to do, like, am I actually going to pull this off? Even when that one showed up, I was like,
sometimes you're your own worst enemy.
Where he's talking about second guessing this and second guessing
You're
that.
inside your own head.
I can relate to him very much so on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have that or not. Maybe you do. You never talk about that kind of stuff. You just seem pretty confident, actually.
It just goes automatic. I try not to overthink it, I guess. But I've had a lot of opportunities and successes with killing does, and does are real edgy. So I guess I got a lot of that out of my system early, and now I just, acquire the target, wait for the right.
I'm talking about picking
turn
a spot.
and picking a spot.
Particular is the big one.
It's always picking a spot. Pick a spot, and, assess the angle real fast, and when the shot presents itself,
I mean, picking
a
tree.
That too.
That's the part. You know what's funny though about picking the spot to shoot? That part, I think.
On public, you're talking picking a tree,
picking a spot to actually throw a sit at, like that feels like that's where I second guess everything all day long.
I just try to put a couple of elements together. If it's multiple, like yesterday, there was a lot of trails that crisscrossed. There's a creek there that had water in it. They were crossing to go over towards crop fields. There was oaks not far away. That looks like a good spot to me. Years of scouting and knowing how they run through that area. I just kind of this tree or this tree will work. This tree here will put me closer if they come through this opening. That tree over there looks like it could be farther away, but it might cover my butt better because of the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really take into account the thermal pull that it would have once the wind died. I didn't think the wind was going to die as much as it did, and it did. And
actually, when we were hunting back there the other day, I was like, it was fairly windy that day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the trees were rocking, but towards the end of the night, it died down only a little bit.
Yep.
But once you got back into that stuff, the wind wasn't as consistent once you're in the foresty area.
Yeah.
I think there's more dynamics at play there.
Well,
the wind was shifting. Like I was showing Jace, I was dropping milkweed pods or, seeds, and it was like, well, now it's going a different direction altogether. Like, interesting.
Well, and it's the thermal pulls, right? So that area had a couple of openings around it. Sun was getting through and warming those openings, so everything is rising. The sun dips down, the wind goes away. Now you have that thermal pull where those areas are warmed up. You drop a milkweed and it's going to pull that direction. Even though you feel it cooling, you also have that too where the cold air is dropping, so it's also going to pull things down, but it'll pull pull your scent over to that warmer spot. It always does. Regardless if it's water holds heat too. But if you got grasses, canary grasses, or cattails, they hold heat. That's where your scent's going to go when the wind cuts.
It's the fact that's happening like throughout that whole damn area. There's just a lot of scent
There's a lot
changes.
There's
we
a
talked
lot
about on the Deer Hunter podcast. How,
we got
like,
multiple
deer,
transitions there. You got cattails, the canary grass, and the wooded
ditch.
area, the ditch. There's a lot going on there. So it's almost as bad as hunting hill country.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
With the thermals.
Yeah, hunting's hard. So at the end of the day, I just decided
use your milkweed.
I was like, well, this is about as good a spot as any because I don't freaking know. The deer are gonna do what the deer are gonna do, and like, damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I push in further, the deer are gonna come over here. If I go here, they're going there. Like, I don't know. So for me, it just seemed like I had the most wind advantage to my favor where I did set up. Where if I felt as though I pushed in, I would have had encounters that could have screwed me. And I was like, well, I'd rather just have all the benefit if it pans out, rather than get totally effed by the wind if something comes in downwind. Because at that point, they could have. And I didn't know which way they were going to be headed for food because there's food on both sides, albeit a pretty large plot. Now where they're bedded, like they might be picking their food. So I didn't see a damn thing. I didn't hear anything. Nothing came through. We saw a tree full of 3 or 4 raccoons, which I think Jace got on film because I was like, well, that's kind of neat. They're right there making all sorts of raccoon sounds. But beyond that, it was just a really nice evening.
Yeah, and I just saw a couple from a distance.
Out of the gear. So.
I just saw their backs through the grass. That's all I saw, and then the raccoons too. So there's plenty of them. Plenty of them things around.
Yeah, well, that's I don't know how our season's going so far. We are filming season 2 of the Word. Whoa, see, I've done it. I've done it.
Yeah, you did.
Of the Okayest Hunter show. Season 2. We have a name for it. We're not going to tell you guys yet. But it should be fun. There'll be signs of what the name is throughout our postings throughout the remainder of the season. If you pick up on it, let us know. But if not, we'll announce it whenever we put it out. I actually don't know. I might decide to put it out next September.
That might be a smart
rather
thing.
than wait. Like this past one we put out in March. I don't know if that was a smart move or not. I really don't know what we're doing. So
you'll get a.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, you'll get it
as we go.
Out.
We'll see what the data tells us. But yeah, fun. I don't know. We might do some interviews in here tonight again. It's just the 2 of us, so maybe we wait till next week when Derek's back. And
yeah, Derek's had some encounters. It's been good for him.
Yeah, he was going to be here tonight, but it's his anniversary, so we kicked him out, as we had mentioned earlier. So he'll be back next week.
Cool.
Next week, we're going to learn about the wind. Speaking of thermals, a concept that I understand it, but
you have yet to grasp.
That's not even it. There's just so many variables.
Again, you're overthinking it.
That I'm like, okay,
you have those pods of milkweeds.
Yeah, that's all. That's
all you need.
Yep.
Just drop them and watch.
Yep.
When you get an inkling that maybe you might be onto something, drop it, and it's either going to tell you or
I
you're
just
not.
Drop it the whole hunt because I'm like, I'm bored. I want to see where the wind's going. Oh, still doing what I thought it was. Oh, it changed. Oh, let's drop it again. See if it's back. Oh, it's back.
Yeah.
Just all over the place. Anyway, thanks, folks, for tuning in. We appreciate you. If you like what we do, I assume you like what we do to some degree. You wouldn't be listening. Give us a review or a rating. It's always fun to see those come through. I don't ask for them often. It's always nice to see what people have to say. Typically, it's a nice thing. Every now and again, we get a jackass saying something mean. But it's good. Feedback is feedback. We'll take it. Beyond that, check out the okayesthunter.com website. We officially have camouflage hoodies. That's the newest thing to the store. We got I talked about this last week, the all-day sit hoodie. I'm wearing it. Got little Debbie's all over here, all over the table. What else? I think that's kind of it. I think we got the face masks coming soon. Is that called? Is it called a face mask? Gator face mask.
From where?
Ourselves. We're gonna put the antler on it. Put it out into the store.
Well, that's fancy.
I don't know when that's gonna happen.
News to me.
I don't know.
You're the product guy.
That's Tyler.
I'm the juice box guy.
Tyler's the product guy. I'm the creative dipshit that knows how to push buttons in the studio. Anyway, that's all we got, I think.
Juice box.
So we'll catch you guys next week.
Hey, have a little Debbie.
See ya.
See ya.